Hi, Scott.
Hi, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Deal,
Uh,
good deal.
Sorry, I had to put this off for a while.
Oh, no worries. I really appreciate you meeting with me. I really do. It's quite an honor to be speaking with you. And I'm
Well, thank.
Scott Oates. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Um, let's see. I'm on the board of North Carolina Peace Action. Been involved with World Beyond War for a while, which is how I connected with Mr. Hartsough, David himself, and learned about him and all of his courageous and honorable and amazing life's work of activism. And I just am in awe of all you've done and what a exemplary life you've led. Um, so I thank you for joining me.
I'll just say I'm David Hartsough. I live in San Francisco, California, and I am a co-founder of World Beyond War as well as Nonviolent Peaceforce. And I'm the author of Waging Peace: Global Adventures of a Lifelong Activist. Um, and since meeting Martin Luther King when I was 15 years old, I've been active in nonviolent movements for peace and justice in the United States and many parts of the world. And I'm still going, age 83.
Wow. Wow.
There's still a lot of
Incredible.
work to do.
Oh gosh, indeed. I really enjoyed the book. It's enlightening. It's inspiring. I would recommend it to anyone who is interested in peace at all. Um, if you think you might like to think about activism or anything of that nature, please check out his book. Okay, I think that's it. You can get it at let's see, where was it? pmpress.org.
Or you can ask your local bookstore to order it.
Sounds good. See, so I thought I'd go ahead and start. And a fellow Peace Action board member of North Carolina's Peace Action, Joe Burton, he's in his late 70s. He has read Waging Peace and he said it was amazing, just like I did. And so he has a question. Given your long experience with nonviolent actions, what do you find is the best way to promote the idea of nonviolence, as most people think that violence can solve problems?
Well, there's various ways. One, you can look at all the wars that we've been fighting. And the US has the most powerful military in the whole world, I think we spend more uh, on wars and preparations for wars than over 190 countries together.
I'm
Uh, and we have lost every war since the Second World War. So violence and war don't work, even if you have believed in them. So why believe in them anymore? But if you read Gandhi or Martin Luther King, those are really good places to begin in terms of trying to understand nonviolence. Um, there's a video series that are available on the um, called A Force More Powerful.
Force more power.
And that is 6 half-hour stories of nonviolent movements that have brought about major change in history. And that includes the Gandhi and the Salt March. It includes the sit-ins in the South, the Civil Rights Movement. It includes the nonviolent resistance to Hitler in Denmark. It includes the transformation of South Africa nonviolently. It includes bringing down the dictator in Chile, and also the Solidarity movement in Poland, getting rid of the communist government.
Force
So,
more powerful.
and that's available at nonviolentconflict.org /films, and it's available free online. And
Okay.
uh, Erica Chenoweth, who and Maria Stefan have written a book called Why Civil Resistance Works. And they studied 323 violent and nonviolent struggles over the last 110 years and found that the nonviolent movements were twice as likely to be successful as the violent movements. So if you want to be successful or effective, you know,
Try diplomacy, please.
and 20 million people died in wars in the last century.
Mm.
You know, so I mean, morality, what works? I mean, use whatever means you prefer, but nonviolence wins over nonviolence every time. Read my book and hear, I mean, I think I wrote my book because a lot of people are feeling hopeless. You know, the problems are so massive. What can we do? And I just share tons of stories of people nonviolently, groups nonviolently challenging injustice and making major changes. And one or just two other things. Look at the website Waging Nonviolence, which has campaigns all over the world and good articles about nonviolence. And the other is Rivera's son has something called Nonviolent News. Every week,
Nonviolent news.
Nonviolent News.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that one. I've seen her a lot around the peace circles online, and she's amazing.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. Yes.
Um, we'll get back to nonviolent movements in a moment, but let's talk about Joe's second question, please. What do you think about Christian nationalism? What can bring Christians to understand that Jesus was nonviolent and then embrace nonviolence as a solution to conflict and differences instead of war?
Well, if
Christian nationalism.
anybody that really looks very seriously at Jesus's life and his teaching, love was, you know, at the core of it. I mean, that's the essence of the gospel.
Mhm.
It's not hatred, it's not racism, it's not militarism, it's not you are more important than anybody else and it's fine to kill them. I mean, he was talking about loving one another and loving our enemies. And John Deere has written a number of excellent books, which can, for anybody that questions that,
Is it DEAR or DEE?
DEAR, yes.
John Deere.
He's not the tractor person.
Of course, that immediately came to my mind, but
But I in Nazi Germany, the Christian church kind of forgot Jesus' message and just supported Hitler, which was a tragedy and a crime. But the Christian nationalist movement, for somehow, have totally missed Jesus' central message, and instead are focused on America's the best country in the world, and you know, and other countries must do what we tell them to do, or we're going to go to war with them, and are often racist and want to use violence to keep people trying to, you know, find asylum coming
I
across the
feel
border.
like our nation is trying to subject the rest of the world to our will.
Yeah,
I mean, do it or die.
which is, I mean, every empire in history has gone down in flames. Uh, and we're in the process of doing the same thing, the American empire. We have 800 military bases all over the world. We constantly fighting wars. and constantly escalating the wars that we do fight, and think that more guns and more weapons and modernizing our nuclear weapons are somehow going to achieve security. And that is not only horrible for the people in other parts of the world that are on the receiving ends of these wars, but are horrible for the American people, because we don't have those funds for decent medical care, for schools, for adequate housing for our people, for really fighting the environmental climate change crisis. And that's where we need to put our money, not into building more weapons to kill people.
100% agree.
Check out some of John Deere's books.
Okay, I'll let Joe know that, and I'm sure
Okay.
he'll be watching. So, let's see. And then the next question, if you don't mind, you ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay, comes from Rachel, who's in Asheville, North Carolina. She wanted you to speak. She said, Ukraine and Russia and NATO and US arms. She's wondering how we'll get out of the mess. And I mean, do you think we will?
Yeah. Well, as Martin Luther King said, the choice is no longer violence or nonviolence. It's nonviolence or non-existence. And that's what war does. It kills tons and tons of people. I mean, I think hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians have died in this war. But just speaking to that question, so that doesn't work. And it is a mess. I agree. But you know, the sad part is that governments very often lie to get people into the wars. And we say over and over and over again, the Russian invasion was unprovoked. Well,
That's debatable.
Them in many, many ways.
It's definitely at least debatable.
We promised Gorbachev and the Soviet Union that NATO would not go 1 inch closer to Russia if they allowed Germany to reunite and also to be a part of NATO, for them to be a part of NATO. But we not only expanded a little bit east, we expanded right up to the Russian borders. And then we have been arming Ukraine and sending the arms and training for the Ukrainian government that had outlawed Russian language. And half the people in Ukraine speak Russian as their native language. And then fought against the people in the eastern part of Ukraine because they wanted a government that really met their needs as well as everybody's needs in Ukraine. And anyway, and there was and Russia was demanding that Ukraine be neutral, that they not join NATO. But we didn't listen to that. And there was actually a tentative peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine in March of 2022, which would have made Ukraine neutral. They would promise not to join NATO, and the war would be over, and the Russian troops would go home. The US and Britain vetoed that agreement. Well, why? We said we wanted to weaken Russia. So here we are, what is it, two years? Is it
getting close, getting close.
And, you know, hundreds of thousands of people dead, you know, cities destroyed, you know, etc. And there's no end in sight. And we keep spending tens of billions of dollars you know, and it's been over $100 billion, you know, for more arms and planes. And we're threatening, we and the Russians are threatening nuclear war. And this could very easily escalate out of anybody's control. And that could mean the end of all of us. So it's absolutely critical that that we settle this war not on the battlefield, but at the negotiation table, and find a solution that's going to meet everybody's needs. And if there's some areas such as Crimea or the Donbass region in the east, let there be internationally supervised elections and let the people in those areas decide. I mean, that's a much more democratic and honest way to try to resolve this rather than who has the better weapons, who can kill the more people. That doesn't really say anything. It'll just sow the seeds for more wars. So, and it's similar on Israel and Gaza. What happened on October 7th, you know, was unconscionable, you know, but we say, again, it was unprovoked. Well, the Palestinian people have been living as second-class citizens, and Gaza has been like a prison camp.
Prisoners, yeah.
And every year or two, Israel bombs Gaza again. But anyway, there have been no human rights. There have been no freedom of for the people of Palestine, and so that was provoked.
Yes.
And that doesn't make it just. I mean,
No.
To kill people is wrong, whoever does it. But for the U.S. now to be supplying all, you know, the weapons and the fighter jets and the ammunition,
Bombs, yeah, yeah.
which is doing genocidal violence,
Yes.
to the people of Gaza, I mean, that's unconscionable. And we need to demand that our governments tell the truth. You know, I mean, all governments should tell the truth.
Yeah.
But if you look at a book by Norman Solomon, it's called War Made Easy.
War Made Invisible?
Well, that's the newest book.
Yeah.
But the earlier one is War Made Easy, but both are excellent. But in it, he documents how every single war has been based on lies. And it gets the American people and the media just quote those lies. And then we end up going to war and kill. I mean, since 9/11, when we started the war on terror because of the bombing of the World Trade Center, over, I think it's over we've spent over $7 trillion on those wars, and over 900,000 people have been killed directly from those wars. And obviously we have not ended terrorism. I mean, we are the terrorists as well. Yeah. But we have created ever more terrorists. Mm. So as Gandhi said, and as King said, you can't create peace by killing people.
Violence begets violence, I think.
And think about that $7 trillion, what we could have done in the United States to make a better living for everybody. You know, and we could have ended starvation and hunger in the whole world. You know,
many times over.
The most loved nation in the world instead of the most hated.
I agree. Wow, that took us pretty far. Well, I wanted to go into your thank you for your responses on those.
Sure.
And I wanted to go down the list of let's see, 10 lessons you learned from your life and activism. And I was just going to read a couple back to you. And
Okay.
okay, first one was vision. And you wrote, it is important that we take the time to envision the community, nation, and world we would like to live in and create for our children and grandchildren. This long-term view or vision statement will be a continual source of inspiration. Then we can explore practical ways we can work with others who share our vision to create that kind of world. I personally envision a world without war, where there is justice for all, love for one another, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and environmental sustainability. That's pretty straightforward. Yes, I would like to speak to that if I may.
Sure.
Vision. Um, Peace is my vision, and freedom for oppressed peoples. Um, just like you're saying. But anything you wanted to add to that? Create your own kind of mission statement, vision statement.
Well, I think sometimes the wars and the violence that we see kind of consumes us. And, we see ourselves as anti-war movement.
Hmm.
Well, I think we also need a vision of the world that we'd like to create, the world we
Right.
want to be a part of. Martin Luther King shared his dream of a world of justice in our society. And that was very, very empowering for African American people to think, wow, maybe it won't always have to be this way. And we could sit at lunch counters and use the bathroom when we want to, uh, and really live as brothers and sisters. And as King said, living in the beloved community.
Yeah.
Well, that positive vision is very, very important. And I think can empower us as we work to help create that vision of the world we'd like to live in.
Awesome. Number two is the oneness of all life. I really agree with this. I've studied Gandhi a little bit and Advaita and the Hindu philosophy, for better and worse. But we are all one human family. We need to understand that deep in our souls and act on that conviction. I believe that through compassion, love, forgiveness, recognition of our oneness as a global community, and our willingness to struggle for that kind of world, we will realize worldwide justice and peace.
Well, I agree with that.
I do.
100%. But that we are all, I mean, I say the way I put it is we're all brothers and sisters. If you believe in God, we're all children of God,
We come from the
and
same
there's not
source.
the good children, they're one color, and the bad children are another color, or
Right.
the good children that are American and the bad children that are Russian or Chinese or Iranians or anybody else.
Children are just
We-
innocent children.
We're all human beings. We're all part of the human family, and we're all interrelated. And so I think if we believe that deep in our hearts, we cannot participate in war. And we have to help create the world where there is no more war. I mean,
Yes,
war is such an outmoded way of resolving conflict.
it
And
really is.
and it is an addiction. It's like alcoholism, you know. Uh, our government is hooked on it. And we as the people need to help
We need an intervention or
we need to
something.
push our government to give up this addiction
Yeah,
and start really creating a world, which there was justice and dignity and peace for everybody. I mean, it would make so much more sense. And we need to believe that we can make a difference. And Margaret Mead has the quote that I guess maybe I had in what you read, but that some people say that, a few people can't really make any difference. But she says it's the only
never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens and change the
Yeah,
world.
right.
Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, Margaret Mead. That's from your
Yeah,
signature.
that's a great quote.
I
So we need
agree.
to believe that. And, again, in the civil rights movement, we sang, We Shall Overcome. I mean, that was the theme song. And you could say in the middle of so much injustice and violence by the police and the the governments in the South, uh, that was insane. But people kept that vision, and they believed that we can really make this different, make a change. And that was, so we need to believe that too.
I agree. And I do believe it. Oneness of all life.
Right.
Okay. And number three, nonviolence, a powerful force. As Gandhi said, nonviolence is the most powerful force in the world, and it is, quote, an idea whose time has come, unquote. People all over the world are organizing nonviolent movements to bring about change.
I mean, I think if we really study history, we can understand that nonviolence is the most powerful force in the world. And governments only have power if the people cooperate. And the films I mentioned earlier show, uh, when people overcome their fear and are willing to stand up for what they believe in, um, you know, it is the people that really have the power. And so we need to believe that.
Okay, number four is nurture your spirit through nature, music, friends, meditation, reading, and other practices of personal and spiritual development. I tried to do that myself. And did you want to say anything to that one, or?
Um, I mean, that speaks for itself. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. And number five, small committed groups can create change. And so you spoke to that, and then sustained struggle. Every major movement that I've studied or been a part of required sustained struggle over months, even years, to bring about fundamental changes in our society. Examples include abolitionist movement, women's suffrage, the civil rights movement, anti-Vietnam War movement, United Farm Workers movement, sanctuary movement, and many others. All had the common thread of sustained resistance, energy, and vision. That's pretty straightforward.
So we need a community of people that are going to work together. Uh, as individuals, there's limited what one person can do against a massive war machine, et cetera. But if we find a community of people that we can work with and trust and really care about, and then are willing to struggle on a sustained basis. I mean, a one-day demonstration doesn't do very much. The war machine is going to march on. But if we're out there day after day after day, and this war in Gaza right now, I mean, it's very inspiring how millions of people over the world are going to jail and are getting arrested and, demonstrating. Here in the Bay Area, people are blocking the ships that are going to Israel with weapons, and blocking planes that are taking weapons, and sitting in congressional offices. I mean, our Congress people are supposed to listen to the people,
Not each other, not each
not to
other.
the people making billions of dollars of selling weapons.
Right. Um, Jeez. Okay. And whoever has the most money has the most power. But
That's
okay,
not the way democracy is supposed to work.
it is not. You are correct, at least from what I've learned in my 50 years or so. Okay, and then next, number seven is good strategy. Yes, holding a sign and putting a bumper sticker on our car is important, but if we want to bring about fundamental change in our society, we need to create long-range goals that build towards our vision for the future, and then develop good strategy and sustained campaign to achieve those goals. And there you mentioned your friend George Lakey's Towards a Living Revolution, a 5-stage framework for creating radical social change, published by Peace News Press. Good
Yeah,
strategy. That's what we're working on with Peace Action now, is trying to
good.
get some good strategy going
Well,
forward.
thinking strategy, good strategy, not just saying, well, this is the way we've always done it,
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And
New ideas, fresh ideas.
George Lakey's newest book is How We Win, which I also strongly recommend. I just wanted to mention several other good resources in case people don't know about them.
Okay.
One is Campaign Nonviolence.
Yes, you're involved with that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You did
Um,
you start that?
no, well, it's good, very good friends of mine that did.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Campaign nonviolence.
Campaign Nonviolence, and and Rivera's son that we mentioned earlier is a part of that. But
Okay.
there's people all over the country that are building nonviolent cities that are, challenging, violence and wars, etc., as building communities. A book by Gandhi, by the way, is All Men Are Brothers, which I read back when I was in high school, and it's very, very inspiring. Democracy Now. I mean, I mentioned the lies of the mainstream
Western
media
media,
or
yeah.
Congress, I was the president,
And the
and
military
mainstream
industrial.
media. Well, Democracy Now really works hard to try to get the real truth out, and that's on every weekday.
Every day.
And so that's a very good source of news. There's a campaign for peace, disarmament, and human security and common security that Joseph Gerson is the head of. He's up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But this idea of common security as opposed to just, national security. Well,
Mhm.
the only way we're going to survive is if we're really trying to think about security for all of us. And I wanted to mention, and that Gandhi's the first person that talked about Ashanti Sena, or nonviolent army. But the Nonviolent Peaceforce that I also co-founded has hundreds of people working in conflict areas to try to help protect civilians and local peacemakers, human rights workers. And Peace Brigades International is also doing great work. And I wanted to encourage everybody to take a nonviolence training. This can be really fun. And I mean, you can actually do role playing, which is what happened in the civil rights movement. And if somebody, spits you in the face or punches you or whatever, how to respond nonviolently and to practice that. But anyway,
Awesome. That's like, are you familiar with Paul Chappell's Peace
yes,
Literacy?
he's a friend of mine too.
Awesome, awesome.
Peace
That's a
Literacy.
good, yes.
Peace Literacy Project. But
I'm
he's a graduate of West Point, as you know,
and
says, well, we need to build a peace army.
okay, we've got some websites here. I'm just going to rattle them off. You've got them in the
Okay.
back of the book. Addictedtowar.com. Albert Einstein Institution, Einstein.org. Let's see, Alternatives to Violence, AVPUSA.org. And of course, American Friends Service Committee, the Quaker organization, AFSB.org. And then about BrianWilson.com, 2 L's, BrianWillson.com. Campaign Nonviolence, which we mentioned, .org. Code Pink, of course, .org. They've been really active in the legislature and going into Congress folks' offices, I've seen. And of course,
Speaking truth to power.
What's that?
Speaking truth to power.
Yes, indeed. That, and of course, Friends Committee on National Legislation.org, FCNL.org, which is where I got this guy.
I see that. Love that sign.
Yeah. Um, okay. Anything you'd like to wrap up with, David?
Since I have your ears right now,
Yes, you
I,
do.
I think, I mean, as the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists says, we are 90 seconds to midnight. It's the most, we're closer to nuclear war than any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and maybe even more dangerous than that. And if we have a nuclear war between US and Russia, for instance,
Less than 1 minute.
there'd be billions of people that would die immediately. And because of nuclear winter, all the debris that goes up into the atmosphere would
Make it
blanket out the
uninhabitable.
sun. And over 7 billion people in the world would die of starvation if the people hadn't already died from the war, from the nuclear weapons.
In nuclear.
This is insanity, and that this is our government's policy. And they say our nuclear weapons are to deter and to protect us. Well, they're not going to protect anybody. And we really need to join the international treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons.
TPNW.
Our members of Congress ought to be here